Perfect. So welcome everyone. My name is Irene Kelly. I am the Financial Education Program Manager here at WEVE. And today it's an honor for me to introduce our speaker. The topic for today is something very, very relevant. The moment I heard about the topic, I was like, please sign me in. I want to be part of that webinar. That she's going to be sharing with us how to supercharge your strategies and results by expanding your capacity. Sometimes it's not your strategy, it's your capacity. So our presenter today, her name is Lisa Fabrega. Lisa is a leadership coach who helps many of ambitious people expand their capacity to handle more growth, more wealth, and more success. For more than 11 years, she has helped several entrepreneurs, corporate executives, Academy Award nominees, and Nobel Prize organization candidates to break through boundaries that have been holding them back from their next level. She has appeared in podcasts, including The Unmistakable Creative, Her Rules Radio, and Tell Me a Story with Deborah Silverman. And she has also been featured on CNN, Yahoo News, The Huffington Post, and Forbes. And she splits her time between Florida and California, has two rescue dogs that might pop in during the webinar. I would love to see them, Luna and Sadie. And without further ado, Lisa, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. This is such an amazing group, and I just really love spending time with WEVE whenever I can when I am in California. So I'm really honored to be here and walk us through some capacity work. So what I call capacity work today. So first, I want to share my screen. So just give me a moment here.
And then everyone is welcome to use the chat, and actually highly encouraged to use the chat. And I'm going to be here going over it, Lisa, in case anything comes up. I'm here to help.
Perfect. Okay, so it looks like we're screen sharing. Here we go. Wonderful. Okay, so Irene has walked you through the basics today. What I was talking about the beginning before some of you joined is that this is a very interactive call, meaning I'm going to walk you through some exercises today where you are going to want to score yourself and see how you're doing in these different capacity areas that we are going to cover. So I'm going to encourage you to use the chat and make sure that you're selecting two panelists and attendees so that I'm not just getting them privately, so that everybody can share their answers. And you'll see why when we go through those exercises. If you have anything that you might need a little bit of spot coaching on, I would say reserve that to the end. And if there's any extra time towards the end, I'm more than happy to take some questions and do some coaching on that. Okay, so let's do a little bit of, I find that it's very helpful to do a little bit of belief clearing when we attend trainings. And that's because everybody here is smart. Everybody here has been in business, has done some internal personal development work. So not everything that we're going to talk about here today is earth-shatteringly new. But I always say at the beginning of my trainings is watch how you enter a container, a training. Because sometimes we walk into a space with certain beliefs that I find are really helpful to sort of check at the door, because it can get in the way of us learning something. Even if we've heard it a million times, you know how sometimes you'll hear something and you may have heard it millions of times before, but just the place you are in your life or where you are in your business, and then you hear it that one time and it lands totally differently. So notice if right now, as you're coming into the training, if there's any part of you that's thinking, gosh, nothing's worked for me so far, so I'm feeling a little doubtful. I hope it's going to help. Or I've done everything. What else do I have to learn? Or thinking that you can undo 20, 40 years of capacity issues in just 1 hour. I always encourage, come in with almost like a newborn mind, as if you've never heard any of this stuff before, and be open to what comes up for you, be open to what you might realize, without any preconceived notions. That's one thing I always say. The other thing I wanted to add is this might be a little bit confronting today. Um, Expanding our capacity means that we are willing to confront things that are uncomfortable to look at sometimes, but we face them head on and we are willing to dive into it. And I just want you to know that there's so much love that I hold here for everybody. And so please know that this is a space of unconditional love, and everything is welcome here. And if you notice yourself feeling defensive as we do some of these exercises, I think that's amazing, and pay attention to that. Sometimes I think are the places where we get defensive or where we get uncomfortable actually are the places that hold the most growth for us. So consider what's being suggested before batting it away. Don't feel like you have to run away from any uncomfortable feelings. Lean in, because that's where the most juicy stuff is. All right. So now that we're done setting the space, let's just bring in a fresh new perspective and get to work. So I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. We're going to start with a small visualization exercise. So go ahead and close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through the mouth. And I want you to picture this scene with me. I want you to step into somebody else's shoes for a moment. We're going to travel back in time. It's 2002. And in this scenario, you have just started a company and it's only 6 months into operations. And you're even just 6 months in, you're already pushing pace to keep up with the orders. And then one day, Oprah mentions you as part of her favorite things episode. Within hours of the broadcast, you are watching in shock as orders are pouring in, and you quickly realize with a tight feeling in your stomach, with both excitement and dread, that if you're going to be able to actually fulfill the orders that just came in just the first few hours of that broadcast, you're going to have to put a sold out sign on your website for a month. Because that is exactly what happened to Patty West, who is the founder of Good Caramel Candies. You can open your eyes now. You see, Patty was affected by something that you might have heard of that many people call the Oprah Effect. When she made Oprah's favorite things list, her tiny company sales went through the roof and they quickly overwhelmed the capacity of her company. And to this day, when she gives interviews on the topic, Patty wonders what would have happened had she not had to shut down her website for an entire month just to keep up with the orders that came in just the first few hours of that broadcast. They got hundreds of orders that one day. And she always bemuses about, how many more sales would she have had and how many more longtime customers could she have been able to retain? Now, maybe you don't want to be on Oprah's favorite things, but I want to give you another real life example from a client that I worked with. Recently, I spoke with a woman who she had started a business and she offered a service that was a real niche thing and that not a lot of people were offering. So it got a lot of demand and it took off. And her business grew so fast, it reached $1 million in revenue in the very first year. But unfortunately, she had never had a chance to build her capacity to handle $1 million business. She had never earned that amount before. The business grew so fast. There's different types of challenges when you're at that level of revenue in your business that you don't have in the beginning of your business. And usually when you get to that level of revenue, that takes time. So you have time to build your capacity. But because her thing took off, she didn't have that time. So she didn't build her capacity. And in that 1 year that her revenue went, I think it was around 200,000 in revenue to $1 million, she went through 3 teams because she was having so much anxiety and having so many meltdowns that her team members kept quitting on her because they couldn't handle being on her team. She was stressing them out. And in the second year of her business, she ended up getting a divorce because she was having trouble managing both her personal life and the business. And in the third year, she shut the business down because she couldn't handle it. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm sharing this because these are experiences that are evidence of what I call capacity deficits. And one of the biggest things I've heard from people that I've worked with, been working with, gosh, I think I calculated I've touched at least 74,000 people with capacity work in the last 11 years at this point. And one of the biggest things I hear is, what if I can't handle it? What if I can't handle it? So, oops, sorry. So capacity matters as much as strategy does. But before we move forward on this, I want us to all agree on some common terms, chief of which is, well, what is, like when you keep saying capacity, what is capacity? So capacity is your unique ability to hold, handle, and receive the next level of your growth, wealth, and impact. I'm going to say that again. Capacity is your unique ability to hold, handle, and receive the next level of your growth, wealth, and impact. Now, here's the problem. Most of us are operating from a capacity deficit, and we will address that in a moment. But now that we understand and agree what capacity is, let's talk about operating from a capacity deficit and how that impacts your business, your career, or your life, and how that holds you back from getting the results you want, because it does in ways that a lot of us don't realize. You can have the best strategies in the world. That's one thing we do. We're go-getters, we're ambitious, we're here to push our businesses forward. And so we go and we get these amazing strategies, and strategies are important. So I am not putting strategies down. But you can have the best strategies in the world. You can have the best strategists on your team to deal with something like the Oprah Effect, as I told you that story at the beginning of our call. You could have the best strategy in the world for knowing how to launch your new program or service or product, or you can have the best strategy in the world for having a tech meltdown in the middle of this launch, or writing your book, or you're writing your book and the sales aren't hitting their targets, or navigating and handling a difficult client that has turned into a nightmare and you don't know how to get your way out of that relationship, or even dealing with a difficult family member, or how to show up at work with coworkers that are threatened by your success. You can have the best strategies to deal with all of these things, but do you have the capacity to hold, handle, and receive what all of those amazing strategies will bring into your sphere? It's a question that we really don't spend a lot of time thinking about when we're focused on reaching our business goals. We're usually taught to focus solely on the strategies and the how-to, and maybe we learn a little bit about mindset tools, but we don't really get taught to focus on whether or not we have the capacity for what we're working so hard to create with those strategies. If we don't have the capacity, what I have found working with so many people is that you'll either hit a plateau and feel like your goal is just constantly out of reach, or you're going to get there and you're going to end up with burnout, or worse, you're going to watch it slip through your fingers. So my goal when I talk with you about capacity is to make you feel like you can handle anything that comes your way. Because we all know that journey is anything, that journey of growing your business is anything but a straight upward line. It's actually a series of challenges and side tracks and, moments where you're just kind of in limbo that grow you to be a better leader and business owner. So today, as we talk, I'm going to constantly ask you to think about your capacity, because in my experience working with thousands of leaders in the last 11 years, it is the most important question you can ask yourself. Are your strategies supercharged by your capacity? So let's try an exercise. I want you to take a moment right now to think about the thing that is like your ideal opportunity. The one that if you achieved, you would just be over the moon. It would be the best thing that happened to you all year. Just bring that one thing to the front of your mind right now. What is it? It might be, being on CNN, or getting the chance to buy a dream house, or having your program, service, or product sell out, or being invited to speak on a large stage, What's your thing? What's that one thing? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about that. So I'm going to encourage you to pop that into the chat. Let us know, what's your one thing? I'd love to see some of those. What's that one thing that if it happened, you would be over the moon? And make sure you select panelists and attendees, otherwise that nobody else will be able to see it. Your contact at Microsoft moved on and I've lost touch with training. I'd love to get back in and train a whole bunch of teams. Wonderful. Okay. Anyone else? I'll tell you, I know that we like to stay quiet on trainings like these, but the sharing is one of the most transformational things. So I want to encourage you to, if you tend to stay quiet, share. It's going to shift things for you on a whole other level. Have enough clients in 2021 to make a decent annual salary. Love that, Joanna. That's great. Okay, I'm going to move on, but I'm going to keep checking the chat because I want to see some of your big goals. So looking at the goal that you wrote down or that you thought of, do you have the capacity to say yes to that opportunity and pull it off without a hitch? That's the next question I want you to ask yourself. Do you have the capacity to say yes to that opportunity right now and pull it off without a hitch? Are you fully confident that you could handle it? It's a yes or a no. You're either ready or you are not. If you say yes, but I have to do this one thing first, then you're a no. For those of you who are a yes, great. I've got something for you in a moment. But for those of you who are a no and you're honest with you're being honest with yourself, I want to high five you through the screen because I know it's not easy to confront some of these things, but you're doing it, which means you're already ahead of the game. So I want you to think about what is the thing that needs to change in order for you to be able to be a full yes to this. So I think so, I would say is a no, right? Because there's a little bit of doubt there. Does your team need to be stronger? Do you need to be a stronger leader? Do you need to stop allowing personal drama to interfere with your professional life? What has to change in order for you to be ready for that opportunity? So I'm going to give you another 30 seconds to get really honest with yourself about what needs to change in order for you to be ready. What needs to change in order for you to be fully ready? It's a good one, LJ. Confidence. Boundaries. Love that, Irene. April, boundaries. Yep. Team not defined. That's a really good one. Blocked. Also good, Luce. Stop letting the distractions hold me back. Oh my gosh, yes. Good. Okay. So if you're looking at your answer to this question, you're going, some of these things that Lisa has mentioned are really ringing true over here. I need to work on this. I don't want you to despair because that's why we're here talking about exactly how you can begin that process of building the capacity to handle that one thing you want without feeling overwhelmed or sabotaging it or being afraid that you what if I can't handle it? That's a big one I hear all the time. That way you can show up as a leader that you want to be and rock any opportunities that come your way. I want you to feel like you can belong in any room with anybody and be able to handle any stressful situation that might arise. Hello, we've been in a pandemic for a year and a half almost. Well, almost a year now, but it feels like 20 years. That way you can navigate any challenges and navigate them with ease and hold your own. I would just want to let you know that what we're talking about today, I have taught thousands of people, and it has helped my clients do things like go from 250,000 in revenue to over $1 million in sales in less than 6 months, or go from 50,000 a year to $50,000 months. It's helped them sell their share of a business that was no longer inspiring them, and then immediately started their own personal brand and be invited onto massive stages under their new business name and sell out their new offerings. It's helped some of my clients do things like make sure they're home to have dinner with their kids every night, even as their book was taking off in the media and there was a full publicity tour going on. And it's literally even saved marriages that were at the breaking point. Whatever your goal is, no matter what stage you're at in your career, you absolutely can't get to the next level of what you want without focusing on expanding your capacity. At every next level of your growth, you will always need to grow your capacity to get there. So there are 6 total capacities, but for our purposes today, and because of time limits, we're going to just focus on 3 today. Visibility capacity, which is your ability to allow yourself to be fully seen in your life and in your work. Then there's money capacity, which is your ability to earn, save, and invest larger and larger amounts of money every year. Then there's embodiment capacity, which is your spiritual, your mental, and your emotional capacity. This is the capacity that you need when you want to stop going on a roller coaster of emotions during a launch. You want to stop shrinking when somebody leaves a nasty comment online on something you posted. And if you want to start believing that you are worthy of putting yourself out there and deserving the things you desire. Or even if you want to believe you can handle your highest goals without doubting yourself. Now, because of how capacity deficits manifest in each one of us, there are no compartments. These capacities aren't in silos. As you can see in the graphic, they're really interwoven, and all 6 capacities are like unique fibers that are interwoven into each other that form a beautiful fabric that I call your capacity code. So you'll notice that as we go through these capacities today, how much they kind of bleed into each other and how much they relate to one another, and even how just shifting one of them can shift all the other ones at the same time. Or if you have a deficit in one capacity, how it might be creating a deficit in the other ones. And another thing that I want you to know is that your capacity code, your unique combination of those different capacities, is completely unique to you, like a fingerprint. Nobody has your capacity code. So that's why I always say this: don't compare yourself to somebody else's capacity results, because it's like comparing apples to oranges. And no matter how far along you are in your career, because I have worked with people who are on the boards of $100 million companies. I have worked with people who are just starting a business. Everybody is either in a state of capacity equilibrium or capacity deficit. When most of my clients reach out to me, they have been operating in capacity deficit for some time. So let's take a deeper look, and I want to do some self-assessments so you can see where you stand in each of these 3 capacities and see what might be blocking you to get more of that capacity. Okay, so let's talk about manifestations of visibility capacity deficits. So visibility capacity, your ability to be fully seen in your life and your work. Let's talk about how deficits in your visibility capacity might be showing up for you right now, because this deeply impacts your publicity and your marketing efforts for your business. It impacts how you brand yourself. It impacts what you write online or in marketing publications. It influences how you express yourself, how much of you people really get to see. It can also impact whether or not you or your business or your brand are showing the most unique parts. And it can impact your earning too, because it's often those unique qualities that we are afraid to show or think we're going to get judged for that we hide. It's often those things that can be the most lucrative things in our business. I once worked with a woman who had spent $50,000 on a publicity team, and she had nothing to show for it. And it had absolutely nothing to do with her publicity team. She had hired an amazing team, but she didn't have the capacity to handle that level of visibility, even though she had done the right thing and hired the strategist for publicity. But every time they would send an amazing opportunity her way, she would subtly and subconsciously sabotage it by saying things like, oh, I'm just not ready, or I'm too busy right now for that. So let's discover how visibility capacity deficits might be manifesting in you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read out a few sentences. And if any part of you says, yes, that's me, if any part of you resonates with any part of that sentence, I want you to type a V for visibility in the chat. Okay? If any part of the sentence I read resonates with you, type a V. And this is really important for us to share in the chat because you'll see why in a moment. So don't hold back. So here we go. I worry that my story or my company's story will upset people, or I feel anxious about getting more haters and mean comments or pushback as visibility increases. Type a V in the chat if that's you. V in the chat if that's you. I worry about messing up in public. Type a V in the chat if that's you. I'm afraid that maybe I'm just not good enough and people will see that and think, oh, she's not as good as what everybody else says about her. I know what I'm supposed to be doing to be more visible, but I can't seem to take the first step, or I avoid doing what I need to do. Again, type V for any of these that resonate. Sometimes I've wondered, if I become more well-known, can I handle that much visibility? What if I get swept up and lose friends or time with family? I feel like it's hard to describe what I do, or that other people repeatedly can't quite describe what I do, or they don't really get what I do. Type a V in the chat if that's you. I'm hiding behind a brand name, even though I really want to be fully seen and be the face of that brand. And lastly, I often shrink down or downplay my accomplishments because I don't want people to get triggered or feel bad about themselves or compare themselves to me. Type a V if that's something that you relate to. So I want you to look in the chat and look at all the V's, okay? Just take a moment. You're not alone. And this is why I like for you guys to type these in the chat, because we tend to think that we're dealing with these things by ourselves, and you're not. Look at all the V's. So here's the next thing I want you to do. This is the homework assignment that we're going to do right now for this. So if you look at your scores, how many V's did you have? Did you have a lot of V's? If you're looking at this and going, okay, I got to work on my visibility capacity, let's do that right now. What's the very next thing you can do? The very next one thing you can do to focus on your visibility capacity. What is it? Now, your ego is going to go, I don't know, Lisa, that's why I'm here. You know what the very next thing you need to do to focus on your visibility capacity is. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds to write that down. Is it you haven't launched your website and you need to do that? Are you sitting on a book transcript? Have you not hired that publicist you need to hire? What's the very first thing you need to do to start working on your visibility capacity? And when you're ready, you can type that in the chat. What's the one thing? Good one, Jen. Sit down. So the very next thing you need to do is sit down, make yourself like a strategy day. I have a client who has an 8-figure product-based business, and she has every Friday, she calls it Founder Fridays, and she sits down and does her for what her next level is every Friday. So you might want to think of doing something like that, Jen. Joanna, get more serious about marketing, accomplishing much more each day. Excellent. Sabrina, website launch, love it. LJ, publish website, post a video. You got 2. I love it. Kemba, take the first step and write down my complete vision. Beautiful. So I'd say the same thing to you as Jen. Make it a fun thing. Set aside a Founder Friday for yourself and take the time to write down that vision during that day. Beautiful. Okay. So let's take a breath. a lot of stuff can come up when we start looking at these visibility capacity deficits, but you can see you are not alone. A lot of people, visibility capacity is the most popular of the capacities. It's the one that people resonate with the most. It's one of the ones that people resonate with the most. So please don't think it's a source of embarrassment to have a lot of V's here. You're not alone. This is where we get to reclaim our power by seeing what the problem actually is. So if this was a big area for you and you had a lot of V's here and you're realizing I really need to focus on my visibility capacity, can you see how if you don't address that first, your visibility capacity, that you can have the most amazing publicity strategy or any type of visibility strategy and you're just not going to do it, or you're going to sabotage it? All right, so let's talk about manifestations of embodiment capacity deficits. So next up, we have embodiment capacity. It's your ability to emotionally, spiritually, mentally handle your next level. It means having the internal fortitude, not just with your mindset, but also emotionally to show up for that next level and not be phased or too thrown off your center when chaos and tumult happens around you. So what does this have to do with your business? It has everything to do with your business. So I once worked with a woman who was resisting reaching out and creating an important partnership with some other people in her industry. And it was because she'd had one bad experience where she reached out to 10 potential partners and they all said no to her. So she allowed this to make her feel so bad that she vowed she would never reach out to create partnerships again, except she was cutting off a really important aspect of her business growth that could potentially add a whole other stream of revenue to her company. So how does this show up for you? Let's look at some manifestations of embodiment capacity deficits. Now, remember, this is not about your business model or your strategy. This is about how you are showing up or not showing up to partnerships, strategic alliances, joint venture opportunities, or any other part of your business. So again, I'm going to read a series of statements and I will read them more slowly because I saw somebody requested that. And I want you to type an E for embodiment in the chat if any part of that statement that I read resonates with you. So let's go for it. I have shied away from building partnerships because I've been burned before, or someone didn't keep up their end of the bargain, or I'm afraid of being rejected. Type E if that resonates. I've ruined potential partnerships because I pushed too soon, I was too eager, and I turned them off. I'm afraid that I am not good enough to be that person's partner, so I don't even ask. I've even asked myself, who am I to ask for this? Why would they want to work with me? And by the way, when I say partners, I also mean clients. It's not just networking. I'm not even sure if I like the person that I'm partnering with, but I know they're influential, so I feel like I need to do it for my business, even if they're not fully aligned with my values. Type an E if that resonates with you. I get caught up in transactional relationships. I tend to hyper focus on the ROI and I wonder if it will be worth it instead of building a rapport and a meaningful relationship first. Be honest with yourself. These things are hard to admit to ourselves. Sometimes I've done what's popular versus what's aligned, meaning I got distracted by the popularity of a tactic or a person, and I didn't even stop to think about whether that person or tactic actually lined up with my values. Type an E if that resonates with you. So looking at your scores, looking at how many E's you typed for yourself, if you're realizing, oh no, I've got to work on my embodiment capacity, I'm going to ask you the same question again. What's the very next thing you need to do this week to focus on your embodiment capacity? What is it? Do you need to learn how to belong in any room with anybody at any time? Maybe you're craving real, meaningful business relationships that are mutually beneficial instead of imbalanced relationships or relationships that are just purely transactional. Do you need to learn how to trust yourself and stop running your business or career or life decisions on a democracy panel, meaning everybody gets an input because you don't trust yourself? So I'm going to give you a few seconds to type into the chat, what's the one thing you need to do this week to start working on your embodiment capacity? So Joanna, I love that, but I want you to create a more tangible goal from that. You say, trust myself and go for it. What would an tangible action step look like that would show you're trusting yourself and going for it? Lisa, and the same thing I would say to you, Lisa, what's a tangible action step you can take that would entail focusing on viewing partnership as a win-win situation? LJ, invite the local business owners that will help my business to my house for a grill out. I love that. That is such a great idea. Yes. Excellent. I love that idea. Beautiful. Anyone else? So while I'm waiting for those answers to come in, I just want you to do a check. How do you feel? Remember, this is not about shame over not being perfect at this. It's about reclaiming your sovereignty, your trust in yourself, and knowing we got to know what's not working so that we can get it working. Reach out to companies I might be intimidated by. I love that, Joanna. I would just make a list and tell yourself, I'm going to reach out to one every week. Create a list of local doctors in my related field and try to build a relationship. I'd say the same thing I said to Joanna to you, Jessica. Make a list and just make it a baby goal. Like every week I'm reaching out. April, write reviews for businesses I admire or recommendations for people I admire. Love that. Again, make a list. Perfect. Okay, so if this was a big area for you and you're thinking, I really need to focus on my embodiment capacity, can you see how if you're not addressing this first, that you're going to resist valuable and potentially lucrative partnerships for your business? Can you see that? I want to make sure you guys are getting it. You can type yes in the chat. Awesome, Joanna. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about manifestations of money capacity deficits. Money, money, money. Everybody loves to talk about money. Everybody hates to talk about money. It's the most triggering topic. So money capacity is your ability to earn, save, and invest larger and larger amounts of money every year. So my question to you is, are you doing that? Because if you're not, something might be going on with your money capacity. I once worked with a woman who had been in business for 10 years. She had big publicity through the years. She even had that little blue check mark that everybody wants on their social. She was in debt. She couldn't make more than $80,000 a year. When we dug deeper, I went to her website and I found out that she had a bazillion offerings on her website. And when I put myself in the position of someone coming to her, I felt so confused. I didn't know what she did based on all the offerings she had there. And that was what was causing the problem, because when I asked her, why do you have so many different offerings? Like, why don't you have a few core offerings that really showcase what I'm here for? She said, well, I've been trying to make so many things work that I saw this one person launched a product about this, so I copied it and did something similar. And then so she was just going around and farming out her strategies. So things that other people were doing, and had created a bazillion offerings on her website. But we all know basic rules of marketing. If I go onto your website and I don't know what you offer because you have so many offers, I get overwhelmed and I don't choose anything. So that's why she was in debt and could only make 80,000 a year, even though she had all of this publicity and a blue check mark next to her name, because she wasn't clear. Or a woman that I worked with who couldn't get past earning 200,000 a year. And when we dug deeper, it was because she had a memory of her father leaving their family when her mother started earning him, and the amount where she started out earning him was 200,000. So this is a great example of how money capacity issues can show up for us. So let's dive deeper and do a self-assessment again. So I'm going to ask you to type M in the chat if any of these resonate. Okay, let's do it. I'm stalling and just creating offers. or products or ideas, but I don't actually get to the stage of marketing and selling them. I'm constantly in feast or famine mode. Feast or famine mode means one month you have a lot of money, the next month you're like, oh, I'm going to pay the bills. Constantly in feast or famine mode. I'm stuck in the illusion that I'm getting stuff done versus actually getting stuff done. Type in E if that resonates for you. I'm sorry, M if that resonates for you. I am unwilling to take imperfect action. If it's not perfect, you cannot market or sell it. I'm all things to all people and to get as many sales as possible. I'm trying to be all the things to all the people to be more appreciated in my family and friends network too. Because this doesn't just happen in your business, it happens in your personal life. I'm giving my power over to experts to tell me what to do, how to price, and what to sell. Be honest with yourself. Type an M if that's you. I'm not passionate about what I'm offering. I'm more in default mode about what I'm selling because I'm used to selling and what's always worked, but I'm not really passionate about it. Type an M if that's you. I avoid, reschedule, or rush through sales conversations, especially when it comes to asking for the sale, or I let the client take the lead through the whole sales conversation. Type M if that's you. I have misaligned price points or I undervalue my work. An example of that. You haven't even made 25,000, but you want to teach people how to make six figures. You want to sell a $3,000 and $4,000 thing, but you're putting out a $997 thing. You're doing extra work to be helpful to your client, but you're not actually being compensated for that extra work. So if you're looking at your M's, and there's quite a few of them, I'm going to ask you the same question. What's the very next thing you need to do to focus on your money capacity? What is it? Do you need to learn how to have a proper sales conversation that doesn't feel slimy or weird? Do you need to edit what you're selling instead of selling all the things? Do you need to learn how to be comfortable with imperfect action? Do you need to stop saying yes in order to control being perceived as the helpful one to people around you? What's the very first thing you need to do? And I'm going to ask you to type that in the chat when you've got it. So I'd say, forget what you listened to in the bullet points. When you tap into your amazing badass wisdom, what's the one thing you know you need to do to work on your money capacity this week? If you feel like, I don't know, that's your ego getting in the way. Don't just go, but if I did know, what would be the thing I'd be working on? Set my prices for my online programs. Even if they're not created yet, LJ, so then that means that your first step for your money capacity would be to actually create your programs so that you can set the prices. Jessica, learn how to have a sales conversation in a manner that doesn't leave potential customers with feeling we're passing judgment. Good one. So you might want to have on your goal list researching different sales techniques that feel aligned for you, or hiring somebody that will teach you how to do that, right? Irene, start investing for my goal on a separate account. Yep, I love that. Okay, I'm going to move on. Make a list of what I want to fund in my life so I have a clearer picture of my money goals and see the big number. Love that. That's a great goal. Okay, so by now you've scored yourself on your visibility capacity, your embodiment capacity, and your money capacity. And you're seeing where you lie in those three capacities, okay? Do you feel like you're starting to get an accurate picture of what's actually blocking you? Let me know in the chat. Are you seeing how without capacity, you are basically putting your strategy at a disadvantage right out the gate? Because you're not dealing with these things that are deeper than the strategy. So our world has changed. It changed at the beginning of last year. And what you've probably noticed is that today's world is requiring so much more from us just to get through, not to even mention managing a business. The reality is that this time is requiring leaders to exhibit as much equilibrium as possible in and through their unique capacity codes. So if you want to lead today, you need to have way more capacity. Your customers, your relationships, the people in your life, they're requiring this of you. Because part of the reason that you hold back on implementing and executing your strategies is because you know deep down you don't yet have the capacity. You don't yet have the capacity to receive what those strategies are going to bring you. And that's why you can sometimes resist executing your strategies. And I find that that's wisdom, that resistance in that case, because it means you're afraid of what's going to happen if you implement those strategies, actually get those big results you want, and then you can't handle it, or you burn out, your team quits, or it falls apart. The old paradigm of business is focusing on strategy only. That's like building a mansion on a cardboard foundation. The new paradigm is strategy that's supported by capacity. This is where you can build a mansion of a business that can withstand a Category 4 hurricane and an earthquake. And this is where you can weather any storm in your business or life that pops up and still lead and show up in a way that you're proud of. Capacity is the lifeblood of strategy. Without capacity, your strategies will not work as effectively as they can, which is why I love being here with you and talking with you about this today. So speaking of Oprah, which I mentioned at the beginning of this call, I was listening to one of her life class episodes on YouTube recently, and I heard Bishop T.D. Jakes use a powerful metaphor that is perfect to describe why we want to focus on our capacity. He said, you can't be a 10-gallon person in love and give 10 gallons when the person you're giving that love to only has a pint of capacity. So similarly, if you have 10-gallon goals and strategies, but you can only hold, handle, and receive a pint because you haven't built your capacity yet, do you see how this can cause a problem? Do you see how you subconsciously end up sabotaging opportunities and wonder why you did that? Do you see how you can manufacture a faux confusion about what you're supposed to do next or what the real problem is so you can conveniently hold back and not show up for your purpose? If you want unlimited gallons of impact and success when it comes to your work in the world, you've got to become an unlimited capacity person. And you are always going to work on your capacity. It never stops. At every next level, you are going to have to hold, handle, and receive more, which means your capacity has to grow to hold all that more that you're creating in your life. Especially these days in this new world that we're dealing with, we are in uncharted waters. There are so many unknowns. Many leaders crumble in the unknown. But when you have capacity, you can navigate, pivot, and grow even in the chaos. So this year I had a client that started working with me because even though she was very successful, she often felt inferior when she was in rooms with sort of big name people. And so she often felt like she didn't belong in those rooms because, they're so much more powerful than her. And just yesterday, she texted me to say that because of working on her capacity, she now feels like she can stand in any room with anybody and hold her own, and she doesn't feel intimidated at all. And I know that we get really obsessed with people's revenue markers as marks of success, but do you understand the immeasurable value of that thing my client shared with me, of being able to feel like you belong in any room with anybody at any time? Do you understand what that does to your revenue and your long-term legacy of your work? Do you understand how that makes your publicity so much more effective because you're not shrinking during a TV interview? Do you understand the value of watching everybody panic over what to do during a pandemic, and because of that panic cause long-term damage to their business, but you, with your capacity, you know exactly what to do, how you need to show up, and how to pivot with ease and calm and grace? That is the power of capacity. There's always going to be some chaotic thing happening. That's the thing, right? Always. It never stops. That's life. During one of the busiest launches of my business, I got a phone call at 3:30 in the morning from my sister telling me that my 19-year-old cousin had been murdered. Now, I am one of those people that has a very loud, somewhat dysfunctional Latino family. But if you know anything about those kinds of families, we are all up in each other's business. We are very close. So this was the worst thing that had ever happened to my family. And you know what I had to do? I had to fly across the country to attend his funeral while managing tough family dynamics and grief. I also had to make sure I was taking care of myself and finish out my launch. The day my cart closed, I was at my cousin's house, the one who had been murdered, helping my aunt sift through his personal belongings. The only thing that got me through that was capacity. So, do you have the capacity to navigate it all and thrive? And if not, the last question I want to leave you with that I want you to contemplate over the rest of this week is, how do you get more capacity so you can ensure that your strategies and your life, your business, or your career are always a success? Because chances are the reason that things are not working for you is not because you don't have the right strategy. And if you don't believe me, maybe you will believe an investment banker I worked with, somebody who routinely works with international attorneys and deals with millions of dollars on the line. She said, I had fears of being more powerful, but I am so glad I did this, meaning working on her capacity. It's truly the most powerful work I've ever done in my life. So I'm here to tell you from my personal experience, the capacity work and continued capacity work and prioritizing that as much as I do my strategy has been the game changer for me. It's been the little hinge that swings the big door. Thank you all so much. It's been wonderful being here with all of you. What do I have, Irene? Like 4 minutes? So I could take a question.
Yes, you could take a question. And then I just need a minute at the end to invite everyone to some webinars that are coming up associated with what you've been talking about, Lisa, in terms of our money capacity. But we do have some time to take a question if somebody wants to ask via chat, or I can also give you the capacity to ask us with your voice if you would like.
That's fine. I can take a live question. Doesn't have to be with chat.
If anybody has a question.
Oh, I'm so glad this has been helpful to you all. Thank you.
Oh, Jessica has a question about what do you suggest for next steps to continue this work?
Well, I love that question because capacity work is lifelong. And that's why a lot of the programs that I offer people they don't have an end date. They're continuous because every time we up level, oh, now there's other capacities to work on. So first, I would say, take the questions that you asked yourself today. What do I need to do to work on my money capacity? What do I need to do to work on my embodiment capacity? What do I need to do to work on my visibility capacity? I would take those questions and make it a weekly ritual to ask myself those questions every week versus what's my strategy for this week, which is where we default, right? And then the final question that I would have you ask yourself and to continually journal on as a business owner is, what is it that I need to do in general to get more capacity for that big goal that I wrote down at the beginning of this webinar? And I would ask you to contemplate on that. That's how you continue being in that space of thinking about your capacity. And if you want to actually work on growing your capacity, you're more than welcome to contact me. I have things that I offer, but I'm not here to pitch anything today. I just wanted to be of service with this. So it's an ongoing process. And like I said, each one of you has your own capacity code. And so it really, when you say, what do I need to do to work on this? I need to know, more like to do a proper diagnosis, because we only covered 3 capacities. Okay, well, but maybe there's the other 3 that you are having issues in. So what's your total score on all 6 capacities? Which is the one you need to start with first? Those are all sorts of diagnostic tools that we just don't have the time to cover today. But just the questions I asked you today are a really good starting point. Great. What kinds of financial capacity competency would clients want to see to inspire? I don't understand that question. So if you could explain that question a little better.
Yes, Esther, let me
time anyway. So I will go ahead and give you the minute, Irene. And I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Lisa. And I just want to take a moment to thank you for your time and for your wisdom, your heart. Everything that you shared has been very, very powerful, and we want more. So hopefully we can have deeper conversations with you. I do want to take a moment to invite everyone to some things that are coming up here at WEVE. One would be our Spirit of Entrepreneurship Award. We are inviting everyone to nominate your favorite entrepreneur. These awards recognize women in Santa Barbara, Ventura counties across 10 different industries. Our nominations are open until February 21st. I'm going to add the link in the chat for us to nominate our favorite entrepreneurs. Then the other aspect is also combined with what Esther was asking in terms of money capacity. We are hosting several financial empowerment webinars. The next one we have, it's called Financial Detox, how to align your finances with your vision and goals. This one is coming up next week, February the 18th from 6 to 7:30. And again, I'm copying the link so that you can have it in the chat. And then lastly, I also want to invite everyone to our Strong Women, Strong Coffee empowerment/networking groups that we host once a month for everyone to just come together, connect, learn, and collaborate. Every session, we interview a different business owner, and then we divide ourselves in breakout rooms so that we can have a chance to just touch base with each other and identify where are we at with our businesses, what do we need, and how can we help each other grow and succeed. So those are a little bit of the things that we wanted to share with you today. And let me share that via chat. And before we wrap, Lisa, again, we are so thankful for having you today. We are going to have the same session in Spanish next week. So everyone here that has some Spanish speaking friends that would be interested in joining us, please send them our way so that they can get all these beautiful insights next Wednesday at 9 a.m. Right, Lisa?
Yes, I will be doing it in Spanish. I'm excited for that.
I'm very excited. Lisa, do you have any last words for everyone here with us today?
No, I mean, I think I said it all, but if any of you have any questions or anything like that, you can find me. I put it in the chat. I'm the same name across I'm on Instagram, Facebook. So you can find me at my name on any of those platforms. And feel free to shoot me a message, and I'm happy to help however I can.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, and thanks everyone that was here with us. We are so blessed and happy to have you here, and we'll see you soon.